Hello, one and all, and welcome to the 13th of April, 2022. It is weekly manga recap time here on Wednesday night. I am Nick. This is Rolo T, and we have pages upon pages of material to discuss for you today, filled with cartoonish-looking characters and word balloons that tend to be filled with a font. Is it Comic Sans? I can't remember what font
There's different
on...
fonts that get used in various mangas. Some will share them. I forget. They're not. None of them are Comic Sans. They're different ones, but.
We'll have to discuss this with people who know more lettering than we do.
Yeah.
Which is a number of people.
Yeah, we actually know quite a few letters.
Yeah.
We're in the know. We're with
yes,
it.
It's nice, isn't it?
we know people.
That's how fashionability and coolness is measured these days. It is how many people a specific profession that you happen to know at any given time. So, instead of trends passing, it's like, today it's like letterers are in, and tomorrow it'll be like
translators.
Translators, and then it'll get into stuff that's just like completely outside of our wheelhouse. Like, how many cobblers do you know? Oh, none.
God, I don't know
Loser.
a single cobbler.
So.
If my shoes get fucked up, I don't know what to do. I don't know a single cobbler.
It's going to be difficult for a lot of people because, cobblers are kind of a trade that's kind of been passed by,
So you say that.
Years of an post-economic, post-capitalist society or industrialization and stuff. These are terms that I know, but I don't know how to use.
I think that for most of us, we don't need to worry about cobblers quite yet. My shoes are still holding together. How about yours, Nick?
I actually do need new shoes, come to think of it.
Oh, no! You got to know a cobbler.
It was foretold. I wonder if that's what's going on. Okay. I can't figure out what my browser's trying to download. Okay, so... Everyone, we have manga to discuss with you guys today, so I hope you're looking forward to that. We will have D. Gray Man soon, but not today. And when we do, yeah, I think that'll be most of the discussion. Actually, is we'll just discuss how to actually pronounce it, because honestly,
it's supposed to be D. Crossman. You pronounce everything like a cross,
right? It doesn't really give you a lot of clues. I'll give you that much. So, we're going to kick things off with My Hero Academia for this week. It's chapter number 350, Bound to a Fiery Fate, which is... It's a title, certainly.
Yes.
I did not expect that we would pick things up in the way that we do in this chapter, because it's this gorilla cop, the one that we saw discussing things, with Whittle way back in the day. I think he tends to kind of be the go-to regular cop that we see whenever the police get involved in things.
Hey, real quick, do you want to try turning your camera off and just go audio?
Turning it off.
Yeah,
okay.
Just the camera.
Should I turn it off in turn video off? Okay, what if I do that?
Okay, let's try it like that.
Boop doop doop doop.
There we go. Go ahead.
Okay, we will try. Okay, so the gorilla cop is in the police station, and it took me a while to figure out who this was that he ends up having a conversation with, but who is just thrown into a cell, and there's a little slot in the door that you can kind of see, you can see through and stuff. And he's like, "Let me give you some backstory. You see, you thought that it was coincidence that Toya ended up joining the League of Villains and joining up with Shigaraki and everyone. But we knew about him because, All For One knows everything. Everything's for his genius plan. He's got so many ideas, let me tell you.
He's
and yeah,
so smart and cool.
Dabi was one of those ideas, kind of. So we get a flashback to explain that immediately after the incident on Sekoto Peak, where Toya unleashed all of his flames and was on the verge of killing himself from overwhelming his own body with his fire, in his close to last moments, all he thought was, damn it, I still haven't shown him anything. He still was just obsessed with proving himself to Endeavor after being discarded. But he survived and was left covered in burns, which makes sense. And All For One showed up and recovered him. And Toyo was taken to a place that was made up to look like a children's hospital, basically. And hey, you remember those like flashback scenes to like, Eleven's backstory in
Stranger Things?
Oh, yeah. That series that's very famous.
It's fine. It's probably the most famous series of the past like decade, but whatever. Go ahead.
It's fine. You don't have to remember the details about it. So it's like it gives off a lot of those vibes. Special kids in a children's hospital, kind of, but it's nefarious.
Evil children's hospital. It's a like staple in like villain culture.
Mm. And so there's such a weird note here. So Toya is immediately like, oh my god, I'm alive. Oh, wait, I've got to get back home. And also he realized his voice is messed up, which makes sense because he was surrounded by fire and smoke. And this also is just an additional detail to explain, like, oh, okay, I guess this would also explain why nobody recognized him by voice when he emerged as Dabi, which that and also like your voice changes a lot during adolescence, but whatever. It's an extra thing there.
Yeah.
Apparently also he was asleep for 3 years. Okay.
Hey, that's a rough time.
I don't know exactly why 3 years, but okay.
You got to age him up. Like
So
he had to be like older, more. He had to be able to drive a car because like otherwise everyone would be like, "How did Dabi get here? He can't drive a car yet. He's not old enough. This doesn't make sense." But now, no matter where Dabi is, you're like, "Well, he could have driven a car to get there."
That's right. That's how being asleep for 3 years works. It lets you drive when you wake up.
Yep. You can legally drive a car now.
So
except he's dead. So usually they don't give dead people license. Except in Transylvania, where that is the majority of the population are dead people. So dead people have a lot more rights there, and they're allowed to drive cars.
Yeah, very, very progressive is Transylvania,
Yep.
and it's
in pro rights for the dead. It's a little bit backwards when it comes to the "please don't suck my blood" laws of the area. That area could still use some improvement. So nowhere is perfect, but they're definitely working towards the right direction.
Yeah, it's nice to see them taking strong steps. Day was that a zombie couldn't get a worker's permit anywhere, and now, wow, they're just they're really flourishing. Yeah.
New world.
Yeah. So this flower guy stops Toya from leaving. Why does he have a mustache? It's such a bad mustache. He looks creepy. And he basically tries to be like, "You wouldn't want to leave. It's fun here. Yay!" And Toya says, like, well, I got to go home. I bet my dad just, was too busy with work to come see me, right? He's probably really worried about me, and I need to go and apologize to him and to Mom for, setting everything on fire. It is me, all for one. I'm watching you on the TV screen that I guess I just watch all the time. Oh man, my plan is so great.
He's got 100 plans, 7 of which involve watching television at all time.
I mean, that's just because he got the good cable package, though.
Yeah. He bought
I paid for this.
He bought all these monitors. He's going to get the use out of them.
He's actually issuing this same speech to 6 different two-way video calls that he's watching right now. The other 5, it makes no sense whatsoever, everything that he's saying. But, that's just what happens when you multitask like this. Yeah. All for One tells him, your hope is in vain. Restoring your burnt and broken body was a monumental task. Your missing pieces had to be replaced via regenerative tissue. You're a changed man with that burned rictus look on your face, and yet you survived. All right. You wanna like pick a thread and then like finish it before moving on to the next one? Like, it doesn't make you sound particularly intelligent and like you're planning everything out if you're just kind of, Oh, and that reminds me of a different thing. And that makes me think of something else. And here's a different point. He's like, I've lost any and all patience for All for One. So when I read this chapter initially, I kind of ignored it because I was like, oh yeah, cool, more backstory for Toya. And then as I was getting ready for us to talk about this again, I just kind of reminded myself of what happened, and I was like, God damn it, I fucking hate All for One planning everything. On top of this, All for One says, you'll never exhibit the power you once did. Every organ was damaged, your senses, your ability to feel pain all dulled. Your body is debilitated and you'll never be the same again. And then he says, we wanted to welcome you in at your full strength, but despite our best efforts, we failed. Okay. So I'm confused. Was Toya supposed to be stronger than Shoto or not? Because it seems like this kind of contradicts the idea that his flames are more powerful than even Endeavor's were.
I'm not entirely certain. I mean, it seems like a large part of it is his flames are hotter because he's just killing himself to use it, to like be at that heat all the time. And obviously, like, the way they're kind of framing this is that, like, oh, we wanted you at full strength, but it like shows like we failed in that shot of him with his dad. So I can't tell if All for One is trying to like mislead him, essentially, right, to be like, oh, but we failed, we couldn't get you at your, like, to try to like, I guess, nag him into this, which is kind of weird because he fails, like, Toya's immediately just like, fuck this, and then leaves, and then eventually comes back and it's just like, oh, this is a means to a goal. So it's just like, it doesn't make All for One's plan look very good because he's just like, yes, all according to Kikaku. But it's just like, oh man, phew, I am glad that guy came back.
Let's analyze very briefly All for One's track record. So he tried to keep his younger brother under his control, and it blew up in his face, and he created his own greatest arch nemesis. He tried to put Aoyama and his family under his control, and that just led into him walking into a trap. He tried to put Toya under his control, and immediately Toya burned up the facility that he was staying in and killed all of the other kids that he was also raising to potentially be his replacement. And he's currently inhabiting Shigaraki's body, and Shigaraki is still trying to resist him. So is All for One actually good at getting anyone to do anything?
The quick answer...
Gigantomachia follows him. Yeah, there's that.
That is true. I would say no. He's generally pretty bad at his job, but he goes in with enough swagger that you're like, you know what? I think this guy actually knows what he's doing.
Is All for One a crypto bro?
Almost certainly. Why wouldn't he be? It's like, you don't understand. This monkey is on the blockchain. It can never be taken. Hey, I clicked a link and someone took all my apes.
And if
Dobby,
you
kill
invest
them.
in me, and if you invest in what I have to offer you, you will make billions of dollars. Will you join me? What? Where are you going? No, I really need you to do this. Come on, but the future of currency. Come on, it's better than money. Come on, please, please.
It's on the blockchain. Did you hear? It's better than a quirk. It's like a billion quirks in one, the blockchain.
Oh, man. That's like what All for One eventually goes into when his plans for world conquest don't work out, is that he just, makes a bunch of really, really, really shitty quirks and tries to get those. Oh, yeah, all these quirks will be worth so much more in the future, as quirks get stronger. But, these really shitty ones, you're going to want these.
Yeah.
Invest in them. Anyway, like I said, Toya burned down the building with all the kids.
Set fire to it all, man. He's just like, I'm out. This place sucks. You blow.
Ujiko says that because of his upbringing, he couldn't be led astray. He'd already been too defined by, all that stuff. So, All for One miscalculated. Big surprise. And Ujiko says, even the man who had known absolute control far and wide couldn't exploit the boy's obsession with it. Yeah, even All for One couldn't do anything about it. It's amazing. So the gorilla cop says, what are you even trying to say? More crap about how All for One had everything planned out from the start? I mean, if you're gonna put it like that.
Yeah, we're gonna say it.
But Ujiko says, I'm saying they'd better watch out because that one boy never did buy what we were selling. We gave up on Dobby and let him run loose because after his body came back to life and he was up and about, he wasn't supposed to live for more than a month. What a surprise when the broker brought him back to our doorstep. Why had he come back? How was he still alive? And Dobby just says to Ujiko, at some point, it's when he, I guess, is going to see one of the high-end Nomu. So it must be like, I guess, shortly after they first met Ujiko. He says, you're the one who kept me alive, right? But Ujiko says, yeah, I guess I saved you back then, I think he says. But then he says, tell me what's been keeping you kicking. And Toya looks at the high-end Nomu, and he's like, this is what you were planning to do to me, wasn't it? Cool. Now I'm back, because this seemed like the perfect place for my funeral. And Ujiko says, and that one glimpse told me everything. He'd kept his dying body tethered to this world through a pure, blazing grudge. And as a scientist, I believe that this is exactly what happened.
It's science.
Toya, in the present, says to Shoto, I actually did come home, even though I was weaker than ever, and there was no way that what I was hoping for was there. I was sure something must have changed. It's all I wanted to see. But instead, I was shown once more. After 3 years away, I witnessed that old familiar scene. And the scene that he comes across when he comes to go and see his family is one of the, no doubt multiple times, that Endeavor was physically abusing Shoto in quote-unquote training to make him stronger. And Dobby says, the reason I was born, the fact is, as a failed creation, my life had been pointless. This family had left me behind in their past. When you surpass your limits, it's like everything you've built up is flipped around upside down. So I focused on honing my flames so I wouldn't be so weak when we next met. This body of mine kept peeling away and falling to pieces, but I never felt a thing. And then he says, also, I know your signature moves too. Because this is a shonen battle series. So that's important too. And we get some cool visuals where, like, apparently he snuck into the Todoroki house so that he could pray in front of his own memorial photo which is creepy and cool. Because he says, ever since the day that Toya died and Dabi was born, heat, energy born of living things as they move and thrive, all for one who seeks to live forever had no use for that mad heat rushing headlong toward death. The demon lord himself had to abandon that frenzied flame of death. And I will say that fuck everything else about this chapter. Dabi, with most of his face burning away, covered in his own fire, perched on top of the statue of All for One and melting through it because his flames are so hot as he unleashes Flashfire Heat Fist. This is fucking awesome.
It is a pretty fucking awesome visual.
And he declares that once I've burned away all that thing holds near and dear, that'll be the mark I've left on this world.
Yeah. It's a cool chapter. It's a weird chapter though, in that I honestly kind of struggle to wonder. It feels very superfluous, I guess. Like in my mind, I look at it and I'm like, I'm not angry we got extra context in Dabi. I don't really feel like I learned anything new. I kind of already got the impression like, oh, Dabi's power is so strong because he's literally burning himself to death. And I just didn't need more details than that. So, I don't know. It's just kind of a chapter that's there and is cool. I think Dabi looks cool in it, but didn't feel like it needed to be there either in my mind.
I am in two minds about it. I am kind of leaning towards where you are, but at the same time, I guess just based on the principle of the matter, I'm glad that we are getting more focus on building up Dabi as an important villain in this, multi-front conflict that's going on. It's not as, like creepy as Toga's, but I guess it's easier to wrap your head around what's going on. So even if it is just kind of reiterating a bunch of the same points, I do like the point that it eventually makes, which is Dabi is just this uncontrollable force.
Yeah.
So
this is, I think, a very it is cool to build Dabi up, and we are kind of, as you said, getting like these snapshots of like the other major forces in this war.
Let's talk about Undead Unluck, I think.
Let's not. Let's go right to E0, Nick. No, let's talk about Undead Unluck number 106. Human rules are always. So we open actually kind of vaguely where like before last chapter ended off.
Yes.
Because this is prior to Andy escaping. And Ruin is basically just saying, unlike you and your kind, negators are a group of oppressed beings. And Seal's just like, shut up, I don't like you. And Seal's like, well, you handle things your way and I'll do the same. You see, I've got something I need to do for a friend. I need to prepare a nice big feast for him. And he should be wrapping up a job now, so he'll be back at any moment. And we see Lucy's mom is among a group of people who are kind of just standing there smiling, these sort of like Rictus's grins. And seemingly not in complete control of themselves.
It's very creepy.
Yes. So Ruin just says, okay, everyone, this is an order. Wrap your hands around your own necks, and then this is when Andy and Lucy pop on out of Ruin. And Andy's like, Yar! Seal just says, impossible. I sealed you up. And Andy says, yeah, physically at least. I found you, Ruin, and flies straight through him. And Ruin's just like, well, that's not going to work. You're just a soul, an astral body. And Andy's like, didn't think this through first. And then immediately Seal slams him down and is prepared to seal him again. And Ruin just kind of notes, like, good job figuring that out so quickly. Like, you figured out how to touch it like an astral form really
cool.
fast.
You touched the ghost.
Yeah. Even Ruin's kind of like, honestly, I thought I'd have problems too. You're really good at this. And Seal's like, don't belittle me. My seal is a rule befitting a future king. It's perfect. If that rule has been broken, it means that there is something clearly afoot that has escaped my notice. Otherwise, something like this would never occur. And Andy just kind of interrupts to be like, hey, Fuko and Ghost, where are they, Ruin? And Ruin's like, Fuko this, Fuko that. You really do have a one-track mind. they're gone at the moment. Out, I should say, to be more precise. Both Unluck and Ghost. And he's like, where'd they go? And it's like, well, to go make some friends. And we cut over to Nico in the lab at Union, where we can see Fuko is kind of stuck inside a cage inside a ghost. And Nico is confronted by a ghost of a woman who just says, Nico, and he looks horrified.
Or he's at the very least shocked, definitely. Yeah. So,
yes. As noted before, the growing theory is that Nico is or unforgettable. So
unforgettable.
Yeah. So I'll be very curious. Also, I like her design where she put on a tie, stuck it between her boobs,
right,
and then put a shirt on over top
of
that.
Yeah. Yes, right. It's
top tier design.
You know, the purpose of the collar is to go completely around the tie.
Yes. It's a good point. Meanwhile, Lucy's like, oh, hey, it's my mom. We could save my mom here, right? Because it's my mom. She's right here. My mom. Look at her. My mom. And it's
Look at her, smiling just as naturally as she always does.
No, you always had that big, terrifying grin, Mom. This is my mom. We can save her, right? Ruin just says, hey, Blood, weren't you supposed to have captured everyone here? And we see the creature that's been teleporting Ruin everywhere around. It's like, quit complaining, I used to say my juniors can't do everything. So Ruin turns to Lucy. He's like, hey, why do you want to rescue that person? She's like, because she's my mom. And Ruin's like, you came all the way here just because she's your parent? She's like, yeah, it's my mom. She's the only one I've got. And Ruin's like, there's only one of any given person.
He makes a good point.
Yeah, it's not an awful point in his viewpoint. And she's like, no, that moms are special. Don't you get that? He's like, no, I don't. Parents, lovers, companions, siblings, the roles humans create are always so unclear, unfair, unequal, unintelligible, and unsettling. Once your mom goes away, you too will understand this.
You too will understand this. That's right. The opposite of durstand.
Yeah, you can negate durstanding. That tickles me so much. Lucy just cries, don't you have a mom and dad too? Please stop this. And Ruin just says, nope, the one who gave birth to me is God. And he swings his claws. There is a spatter of blood. Lucy grimaces. And Andy just says, what? And then we go to the next page. And Ruin's arm has been sliced off. And someone says, how sad. You have no one, huh? So there's not a solitary soul you would risk your life to protect. And Nick, it's Rip. He showed up and saved everyone.
Yes, he did.
And he says, that's a shame, because I have too. And that's how the chapter ends.
See, this is how you're supposed to wear a tie. Around the collar.
I want him to put it between his tits.
It's only fair.
I want him to tuck it in there.
Yeah, it's a nice, fast-paced chapter. I'm honestly, I have to say, I'm impressed by how quickly we've kind of grown attached to Lucy as this, new kind of sidekick character. Even though it's kind of like if we had, the main heroine who is just not there, and all of the development were stripped away from her. It's like, yeah, but she's still likable.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate that, she's got that very, straightforward approach of like, no, like I got to protect my mom because she's my mom. And then there's just this asshole over here who's just like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. Human rules are arbitrary. Like, yeah, but fuck you.
I love several parts of this chapter. I really, I don't know. I love the tease to Nico, like, hey, we're about to get something big with him. We're about to delve into this character at some point. I know you guys thought we were going to do something when we made Nico versus Tella, and then we never cut to that fight whathatsoever. We're going to do something with Nico, I swear. I like Ruin's speech. I really do like him saying like these human rules are so unclear, unfair. Like him just rattling those things off. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
know why this is a good speech. And I was really fucking hyped for Rip showing back up and saving everybody. And you're like, oh wait, Rip is a great person to fight Ruin because he stops people from healing, which is what Ruin can apparently do.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a really really satisfying chapter for me.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yes. Do we do Eden Zero now?
Yeah, let's talk about Eden Zero, Nick. This is Eden Zero, chapter 187, Shiki versus Wizard. So, last chapter, the 4 Dark Stars were facing off against our 4 heroes, and Shiki was trapped in sort of this weird simulacrum version of Grand Bell Kingdom with all of his old friends. And he punched Witch, who wasn't actually Witch, it was Wizard in disguise. And I don't know why Wizard says,
If only I had a nickel for every time that's happened to me.
Wizard says, I won't fool you because you have a heart. No, that is not the case. You took a swing at Witch, something impossible for you 2 years ago. That heart, 3 years ago. This heart of yours is bending towards darkness because you punched a fake version of your mom.
Oh my god! Oh my god! This entire 4-on-4 fight has just been semantics arguments so far. It's so stupid.
Don't worry, we're gonna keep going. So he casts lightning, and immediately Shiki's like, Thunder Ether, you have the same power as Witch. And he says, the power I wield is magic. And he uses ice magic. And he says, we 4 Dark Stars are the next generation of Shining Stars and their respective counterparts. Hermit, the mind, matched by the brain, the killer. And you're like, those two are doing too similar.
Those aren't opposites.
Like, I guess that one doesn't really. Anyway, Sister, the life, corresponds with Clown, the death.
All right, I'll give you that one.
Yeah,
sure,
that
sure.
one, great dichotomy. The idea that he created new dark stars as dark versions of these things. Valkyrie the sword, matched by the armor, Brigadine. Like, again, I sort of see it. You kind of fucked yourself by having someone be referred to as the shield of Edens already.
Shut up! We're the opposites of them.
So the shield and the opposite, wizards, the spear of Edens. My spear is a galactic polearm that can shatter any shield.
Hold on, I thought you were a wizard.
I'm a spear wizard. It's a class somewhere, I'm sure. And this sequence is maybe my favorite of anything that happens this week. So Wizard shoots a bunch of lightning at Shiki, and Shiki catches it. And Wizard goes, "You caught your magic in my bare hands." And then Shiki turns it and throws it. And he's like, "No, you must be holding it with your gravity." And then he tosses it. He's like, "Oh, no, you've compressed it." And I like the idea he's just narrating his entire fucking fight to himself. He's like, "Now you're kicking me in the tits. Ouch, ouch, it hurts. Now you're putting me in a noogie. Ah."
Oh, your knuckles sticking into my scalp. That's very painful. I don't like that.
Now you keep shoving my face into a toilet. Into a toilet again. Because there's this weird gimmick where Wizard doesn't open his eyes, and you would assume that he's blind and has some kind of sixth sense. But as we find out by the end of the chapter, that is not the case. So I don't really know what's going on at this point. Shiki.
He can see so long as he narrates everything that's happening, obviously.
That's his Daredevil sense. He has to tell the audience what's happening. Shiki goes and punches him, and he's like, "Ouch." And then, he gets surrounded by a bunch of glyphs, and then gets hit with a big fire attack. And Wizard's just like, "Your gravity doesn't hold a candle to Lord Ziggy's." And Shiki activates Overdrive and smothers the flames. And Wizard's like, "Why does he look like that? Overdrive? That contradicts our data. Has he altered himself in 3 years?" I'm like, "My bro, you are in a shonen manga. 3 years past, you had to assume the lead character's gotten a couple power-ups." Also, I don't quite understand how Ziggy's future scene works, because if he saw the future, Shiki went into Overdrive before the branching timeline part happened, so he should have known that he had whatever. It's not really actually that important, but Uh,
Yeah, I have to wonder, like, if it's like if he's shy, like, wait a minute, he's developed and is stronger after 3 years. Like, yes. Well, you think he's just shocked by everything? Like he looks at Shiki like, wait a minute, you're not wearing a band-aid on your cheek anymore. That contradicts our data on you.
he doesn't actually know it's him. He's like, after I kill you, you'll give up where Shiki is. You're like, I am Shiki. Like, no, Shiki has a band-aid right here. You can't possibly be him.
All you've got there is a very obvious scar that could be easily covered by a band-aid.
You're slightly more mature than him. We can't possibly have assumed you would have matured in 3
You
years.
look like you're about 3 years older than Shiki.
Tell us where Shiki is. Shiki channels all of his power, does a big attack. Wizard blocks it and then absorbs all of his energy, saying that he has Drain Ether, magic that siphons away the ether of my opponent. The more powerful the ether unleashed upon me, the more powerful the ether I absorb. And we can see Wizard's eyes are now open. He says, this is the end, Shiki. Battle dress, we quip. And he has a very unremarkable form change. He says, a human can never hope to defeat a machine.
Look at me, a machine who switched to a different costume. Can you, a human, do that?
You're like, change clothes? Yeah, it's kind of like a fundamental thing we do every day.
This contradicts all of our data.
They never updated their data. There's just some computer in a room that's never been shut down and has like 400 updates waiting. That they're just like, someone restart that computer. Like, holy shit! How many
Did you guys know that humans have 10 fingers?
They've never updated their information since like the 1400s. They're just like, oh my god, what the hell's a credit score? This is crazy. So Shiki starts pulling, using his gravity unintentionally. The memories, they're falling into my mind. He is pulling the memories in from Wizard, as we saw him do earlier with Draken Joe.
It was like a really big deal the first time that Shiki did it, but I guess it's just like, oh, well, I've been finding this guy for one chapter. Better experience his backstory.
Yeah. So we get the line, you're like a wizard. And we can see witch and wizard. And they're like, yeah, the magician of the courtroom. And Wizard says, if I'm a wizard, then you must be a witch. A steel sorceress with ironclad logic. And it is the dumbest assortment of dialogue I've read in quite some time. And she says, ugh, that makes me sound so stiff and rigid. And
wait a minute, that wasn't a good pickup line? This contradicts all of my data.
I will channel now 500 gigabytes worth of pickup artist logic and tweets to see if this works.
He just like stares at her, concentrating, and you just hear.
He said, he just opens his eyes and he's like, I believe I'm supposed to neg you and lie to you. I believe I'm supposed to gaslight you until you date me. I am a Sigma, no, Omega male. God. And there we go. That's the end of the chapter. Shiki's like, holy shit, wait, you do witch? Which this is a very interesting scenario here. Because this seems to imply that these robots aren't robots. They're androids or cyborgs of some fashion, which really begs the question, what are robots in this universe? Like, are all the humanoid robots like humans at one point?
I don't know about that. I mean, we have already seen from Hermit's past and from Valkyrie's past that they lived very, just like sentient creature lives and just did whatever when they were away from the Eden Zero. So this could be, what Witch was getting up to in the in-between period between...
The idea that dude's like... galactic space angels were just like, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna practice law for a couple decades or whatever.
Right. But I guess Valkyrie decided to hang out somewhere and raise a kid, so Yeah, maybe they were just like, yeah, I'm just going to work on me for a while, all
Yeah.
in their own different ways. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to go and finish up my degree that I started when I was, in beta testing. Um, but it's, yeah, I mean, we always just kind of got an image of Witch from just like, her function really on the ship, basically. So to see more about her could potentially be interesting, honestly. But not a great, first couple of chapters on these four dark stars, guys. They're just, and again, they have to follow up on two of them just getting completely clowned out by a guy that then went on to immediately get clowned out by a guy who went on to get clowned out. So they've got some ground to make up already, and this is not doing them any favors in doing so.
We shall see. It was honestly, I don't think a bad chapter per se. Just a chapter with a lot of stuff that's like kind of doofy in it. So you just like, I don't know, got to get the jokes in.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to Akane-banashi, Story 9, After the Delight. So we see that Akane has gotten a feel for her audience now, and so now she can really launch into her story. And so she is telling this story basically about an older guy who meets with Hachigoro, who is the protagonist of the story. And essentially, the old man decides to teach him how to compliment others. But Hachigoro is not a very good listener. So his idea of how to get through the conversation is just, I know, I'll just copy what he says, and then that'll work. And then that'll, satisfy him that I've learned the lesson. And then, I can drink. He'll give me some freaking booze at the end of this. So the example in the story that starts off with, all right, so you said you're 45 years, so it's like what you're supposed to do is say, if you meet someone, you're supposed to kind of fib a little bit about how they look after they tell you how old they are. For example, like if they're 85, then you should say they're like 82. And okay, let me try. You said you're 45 years old. You feel ripe to me. You like you're about 100. It's like, no, you're doing it wrong. And so Kyoji is observing all this, and he's like, okay, yeah, she's, employing this very slow, careful tempo. It's perfectly suited for her audience, and that's something that you've got to do as a Rakugo performer. And so I'm pretty confident that she's got to do a satisfactory job. This is a good sign. But then, as she keeps going, through it, she starts going through the jokes, and it's like, okay, look, you're supposed to do it like this. If you're talking to a man who's 50, tell me he looks like 45 or 46. And what if he's 60? We'll say he's 55 or 56. What if he's 70? Say he's 65 or 66. What if he's 80? Say 75 or 76. And 90? Buzz off! Oh, I get it. If I meet a 90-year-old, I'm supposed to say buzz off. It's a joke. Yeah,
good one.
But as she's going through it and her audience starts laughing more and more, Kyoji realizes, wait a minute, the tempo of her storytelling is picking up. She's increasing the pace like a car shifting gears. So she started out really slow and comfortable, and now she's gradually gotten faster, and she's been doing it so naturally, the audience doesn't mind. They've just been keeping up with the tempo, and they're completely caught up in it. So she's accustomed them to the pace she wanted to perform in the first place. And we see that Akane is consciously thinking about that. And she's like, all right, great. They're comfortable with what I'm doing now. And now I can do it how I really want to do it.
Yes. And
she flashes back, and we see that this is also a lesson that she learned at the pub, which is, like the point of, serving customers is to delight them. As long as I do that, it's all about presenting food I can be proud of. So there's that compromise there of you've got to suit things to the person you're serving, but also you've got to have pride in the thing you're presenting them. And that is a very important lesson, I think, as well. And it's one that Kyoji did not intend for her to learn, but she did. So it's good. And Kyoji compares this to like, okay, the metaphor before was she's a fastball pitcher, and she just throws these wild fastballs that don't hit the strike zone. And I figured she would make adjustments and get her Rakugo into the strike zone, but instead she just kept the pace and widened the strike zone itself so that she could keep on doing what she wanted to do and it would still land. Kyoji flashes back to a conversation he had with Shiguma about, what he was trying to teach her, and Shiguma said, yeah, I'm sure she's going to do fine. But Kyoji's like, well, she seems to be struggling with it, and Shiguma says, well, Akane is good at keeping others in mind, and she's willing to learn. She might be panicking a bit due to the influence of other pupils these days, but I'm not worried. And Kyoji's like, yeah, you were right, because her eyes are trained right on the audience. And Akane is still she's still sharing her story with people, and as she does so, she's enjoying it more and more because she's like, this isn't like last time. Everything is landing. The audience is in stitches. This feels really, really good, and it especially feels good because of the story that I'm telling. Because this is a story about a man who fails because he thinks he knows what he's doing, but he doesn't listen. And I've been making the same mistakes lately, so it really hits home for me. And it reminds me of something the master told me years ago. And we get a conversation in a flashback between Shiguma and Kid Akane early on in her training, where Shigemo's trying to tell her, Rakugo is an old art form. It was developed by the townsfolk of the time, and so because of that, the characters in the stories are carpenters, they're fishmongers and stuff. They're normal people like us. Eventually, you'll learn to understand how the people in those stories felt about things. And Akane was kind of doubtful about this because she's like, well, they're from so long ago, though. But Shiguma explains, you'll understand. Our lives and ways of thinking may change, but there's a beating heart of humanity that stays true in any era of history. So go out there and experience things, Akane. Live life, struggle, get hurt. These things will one day help you grow. I promise you. And yeah, cool. And Akane's like, yeah, I did it. I gathered, experiences, and it brought me to this, success. None of the struggles I had were wasted. I can apply all of it to Rakugo. It feels so good. Rakugo is so much fun. And we just get this full page spread of her as she's just really happily telling this story, and she's getting really into it. And then we cut ahead to later. She takes her hair out of its ponytail as she's able to relax. And Kyoji congratulates her and says, yeah, if you keep on improving at this pace, you'll have nothing to worry about. Akane thanks him for helping her, and which Kyoji is confused by, but she's like, well, I'm thanking you, for everything, because now I realize I was stuck in this narrow view. But thanks to you, I think I'm learning to love Rakugo even a little bit more than before. And so Kyoji says, well, I'm glad that I helped you. And you've shown me your answer loud and clear, so now it's my turn to show off. I'll demonstrate the power of my seniority to you. Because, of course, Akane was just the opening act for his performance, so I guess we're going to get to see that next time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is a really, really good chapter. I love showing off her skill, showing that it's a different thing. I like the lesson that was kind of learned of like, look, you can still be yourself. You don't have to change everything about you. It's all about kind of adjusting to the audience and get them to go on your pace and everything like that. I think that was like a good lesson. The art in this series, or in this chapter, as it's been for this series, is absolutely phenomenal. I love her little moment to be like, thanks. I think I'm learning to like Rakugo even more. And I like the tease that, like, okay, now we're going to see what her sensei essentially is going to be doing, and kind of see a different Rakugo style. I guess we've only seen hers and, like, that one rival guy with, like, the seductive style. So I'm curious to see what
and her dad's, basically.
Yes, which is more or less hers because she's modeled so much off of him.
Right.
So I'm very curious to see someone else do it. And it's just a good chapter, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things to like about this. It hits a lot of, it hits the point that you're expecting, and then it hits like 3 more different ones. And Akane-banashi has managed to do that in, I think, like 3 chapters now, where it's like, yeah, you've got the high expectations, and then somehow it exceeds them by doing a bunch of other things on top of it. So really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Blue Box.
Yes. Let's talk about Blue Box. I fucked up my alphabet for a moment. I was like, oh, we're already at Doron Dororon.
No,
Doron
not yet.
Dororon.
Not yet. We're not at the Duran Duran yet. It's chapter 48 of Blue Box, If We Weren't a Year Apart.
Aw, and Nick, it's like the 1 year anniversary for the series.
Yes, it is. There's a special thing that that Shonen Jump was promoting, which is like it's just kind of like a low beats to chill to kind of thing, which is
seriously,
Chinatsu's practice. Like it's chill music that plays with an image of a sketchy Chinatsu kind of like going around practicing basketball, and you just hear her like sneakers squeaking against the floor.
That sounds fucking awesome. I gotta check this out. Where is it?
I think it's on the Shonen Jump YouTube channel, I think.
Ooh, I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like it was an unusual like little thing to celebrate. It was like, oh, that's really cool because it's very different, So.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, we've got this big 2-page color spread to celebrate with a bunch of all the characters, even the ones you can't name. Yes, that one too, in like nice dress clothes and stuff. So, after having spent the night together, not like that, definitely not like that. It was very firmly established, not like that. Taiki and Chinatsu are getting around, ready to go on their day. Somehow the art manages to convey that Taiki has bedhead, which is impressive because of how spiky it is. And Chinatsu like teases him about it and is like, yeah, you got some bedhead. And she like pats her head to demonstrate. And he's like, oh, where? And he does it too. So they're both just like have their hands on their head at the same time. And she says, now we look like a couple of dummies.
Yeah, it's a cute little thing.
So I actually believe that. Oh yeah, sorry. This is not actually the morning after they spend the night at the hotel. This is just some time later, and they're just waking up around the house. And Taiki's like, "Yeah, things aren't like awkward between us ever since we made that trip to the beach. I still like her the way I did before, and she's still living with us to commit herself to basketball. But compared to before, I would swear that now." But I won't finish the thought. So there is a cultural festival that's going to be happening, which it's not shocking. It's a high school life series. Those happen in like every single one of these.
Yep. Nope, this is the first time it's ever happened, Nick. This is revolutionary.
Oh man, it's whoever thought about portraying this real life thing in a manga about a real life thing. So, Hina and Taiki's class is going to put on a performance of Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, which in the manga I've read and the anime that I've watched, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves in particular seems to get put on in class productions a lot. So I don't know if this is like a true to life thing with Japanese schools, if it's just like a common play that gets put on specifically by Japanese schools or what. Because it seems to happen more frequently in Japanese series that I have seen than in Western series that I've seen. Like it happened in like Sailor Moon. It happened in what's it called? Fucking Fruits Basket. It's happened in this. So there's a lot of them. But anyway, I guess because also it's a convenient setup for but the guy and girl have to kiss,
Yeah.
So Hina says that she's going to be starring in it. Taiki glances at her while she's like introducing this topic to the class, which we don't see. We just like see them later, which is a little bit weird. Are they in class together? Yeah, there they are. There's another face right there. There's another student. I see him. I thought it was just the three of them in an otherwise empty room for so much of this scene. So Hina tells Taiki that he's going to have to lead on the project since he's the class representative. And Taiki's like, but I was just pushed into doing this. Yes, you were. So fucking do it.
Do it, nerd.
And he's just kind of like, yeah, okay, I'll do my best to support you however I can. And Hina just kind of gives him just like a look, like, huh, I didn't really expect that kind of, yeah. The teacher also gives Taiki a list of the participants and says, can you hand it to the second year rep? So he's like, all right, sure thing. So he leaves. And as he does, Hina's like, he's a hard worker. And their friend, whose name is not important, says, so I didn't ask Taiki or anything, but you told him that you like him, right? And Hina's like, what? Because, you know, she's chill like that. So she's fine. So he gets kind of nosy on her and is like, hey, so, I mean, like, Taiki likes Chinatsu-senpai, and they fucking live together. And he says, yeah, you're awfully nosy, aren't you? But she answers a bit more directly by saying, there's nothing we can do about it. I realized that I have feelings for him. So she seems to still be taking things in stride, regardless. So she is handling it well, apparently. Who knows? Teenagers, so. Glasses boy is like, oh, it still hurts. It's like, yeah, but I don't care about your feelings. Taiki goes to see the second year rep, which is Sasaki, who I don't even know if we've met before. But he comes into Chinatsu's class while she's alone, and she tells him, yeah, he's out preparing for the cultural festival with everyone else. So can you give this to him? Yeah, blah, 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 blah. He comes into the classroom and he's like, oh, being in the second year's classroom makes me nervous. So, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. And then he observes, like, oh, man, you've got a great seat, Chinatsu, because you're in the last row and you're right by the window. And so Chinatsu's like, oh, okay, yeah, where do you sit in the class? And Taiki puts his hand on the seat of the desk right next to Chinatsu's. And so Chinatsu says, aw, too bad. If we weren't a year apart, we could be sitting next to each other.
I don't know why that line did get me, where I was like, oh, we would have.
Yeah. They would have been neighbor friends and stuff. Yeah. And they start, you know, Taiki doesn't like melt into an awkward pile to his credit. He's like, yeah, if you were born a year later, then you could let me copy your homework. And Shannon's like, no, you do your own homework. But Taiki says, you know, I bet despite the fact that you sit in the back, you don't fall asleep during class. And Shannon says, yeah, I stay awake, but I can imagine you sleeping at your desk. Well, I wouldn't do that. But then while the teacher goes down the road to call on students for answers, I'd try to wake you up, but then you still wouldn't budge. And they just kind of like imagine this whole sequence of Taiki jolting awake when the teacher calls on him. He doesn't know what's going on, but Chinatsu helps him out by giving him what the answer is by writing it down so he can see it. And then they get away with it. And then there's just this 2-page spread of the two of them being happy with each other, sitting next to each other. And it's very cute. And Chinatsu kind of looks at him after they pause, thinking about that. And she says, you'll just have to skip a grade, Taiki. It's like, aw.
The idea of him and her almost kind of sharing this collective imagination of what it would be like for the two of them to be in the same class together is it like nothing in it is new. It is as stereotypical as you could do. But the idea that they have this imagined time together is very, very sweet. It is a very, very cute moment.
I feel like this does more to establish a potential romance between them than anything else that we've seen in this series. Yeah. It's like, okay, if you guys are on such a similar wavelength where you're imagining the same things together, then that's all right. Maybe you do really, really like being around each other. I'll buy it. Yes. Yeah. But shortly after that, Chinatsu gets called to do something else. And Taiki's like, I mean, I totally would skip a grade if I could. You know, we've always been in different grades. We're on different sports teams. All I can do is watch her across the net and think about how if we weren't living together, then we have nothing to do with each other. Speaking of, he goes home, and Chinatsu's mom is there, sitting with Chinatsu. And he's like, oh, what are you doing in Japan? And so she says, oh, yeah, Chinatsu's grandfather had a fall, so I hopped on a plane to come here. But he's fine, by the way. But it's an excuse for me to show up at this moment very suddenly and abruptly with no warning. And she says, okay, so he's going to be getting surgery next month, and I'm renting an apartment here in the meantime. So then Taiki's mom says, yeah, so Chinatsu's going to be living with her mom for a little while. And Taiki just kind of stares in surprise, and he's, huh? So yes, we did just strongly establish, like, yes, there would be no connection between Chinatsu and Taiki if not for the fact that they live together. And now that's not going to be the case, at least temporarily. So it's not as if suddenly everything's been dropped. It's like, oh no, the only connection is gone forever. But it's like, yeah, but they are going to have to seemingly spend a lot less time together now. So
yeah, I mean, it's not exactly like, oh my god, like, it's not like something where, like, I read the end of the chapter, it's like, you've upended my entire world. But it is something that's definitely like, oh, hey, like, the status quo is going to change. Even they admit, rather briefly, because her mom's not going to be staying a very, very long time. So it's going to be like a chunk of the year.
Well, she says next month is when the surgery is happening.
Yeah.
So, presumably it's not going to be too long. But yeah, I guess we'll see what becomes of that and how the characters are going to react. It's a sweet chapter in the meantime. I did like their little imagined spot, and just that 1-2 page spread of the two of them is very, very sweet. So
yeah.
All right, the time has come. Doron Dororon, chapter 18, Rage. So
it's true. It's a very raging chapter.
I don't know how much longer this is going to last.
What makes you possibly think that? So
Yoshihime leads Uji to the compound that all of the demons were hanging out at, and the Izanagi, and then Hidehisa tries to sneak attack Uji, but it doesn't work, and they all say some things that are very in their gimmicky character bits, and Uji's like, I guess this was a trap. So then he's like, hey, where are the hostages? And Yoshihime goes, ha ha ha, there are no hostages, ha ha ha. And Hidehisa says, oh yeah, I killed them. Also, Tamemon ate some of them. And they just go, you're stupid. And their leader goes, even if they get it, they still can't resist coming to another human's aid. Humans are idiotic creatures. And you're just like, I'm right here, guys. Come on, I'm right here.
Guys, stop being mean.
Check out how powerful I am. Surging power aura that makes all them go, oh my god, he's so strong and stuff. So Hidehisa launches his snake missile things, and he dodges, to which Hidehisa goes, he dodged. That's no fun.
I mean, he's right. You know, it is no fun. If you play Battleship and nothing ever hits, it's all just misses. It's not a fun game.
No, that's true. And you'd be like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, especially if you're playing it and you get to shoot like 100 in a row. You're like, you do like 7 shots in a row, and you're like, they all miss? This game sucks. I hate this game. Everyone sucks but me.
Yoshihime is Uji's first target. He chases her down because like those threats are a real pain. They've been in the way. I should kill her first. So Yoshihime pulls herself up to the rafters and is like, I've got to apologize because I'm way out of your league. And look, webbing where you're standing. Ha! And now I'm going to spear you with threads and stuff. And Uji's like, all right. And he just holds his sword up to the threads, sticking him, and makes them stop sticking him. And then he launches himself up towards her. and bashes her up through the roof, and well, she's dead. Uh, her body is split in half by the force of the impact, and then he launches his voracious Hulk attack at her, and it eats her. Brom. And Hidehisa comes up out of the hole that he made, and they square off on the roof, and Hidehisa says, "You killed Yoshihime!"
Now remember, Nick, this is the intense character. When he was introduced, it was sort of a status quo shifting for this series where, oh wow, these are very, very terrifying characters now. So this character is going to be an intense fight. Like, I know she was just kind of a throwaway spider gimmick villain, but this is potentially the main event.
I mean, if these three guys are all supposed to be on roughly the same level, I mean, Dora had to have a crazy huge power up after a lot of training in order to be strong enough to be one. And it took him, even after that, it took him, he had to have time to prepare for it. He needed a lot of assistance. So yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, I think he's probably even stronger than that guy. Yeah. So what's going to happen? So Uji kills him. Like, they say a bunch of dialogue to each other, and Uji does the flash step sword strike and cuts his body in half, and then summons another voracious Hulk, and it eats him, and he's dead.
It's almost kind of funny the way it happens, because he's just like, Slice, like, huh? I didn't even see what happened. Chomp, and that's it. And there's not like a big panel for it. It's just the panel of the other guy being like, oh shit, he killed that one.
So their leader is like, oh man, all my guys are dead now. It's just me. Time to use you know what, which it's just you're saying this in your head. Why are you saying this?
Time to do the old mystery special number 3, if you get what I'm saying here. Wink, wink.
So he makes a symbol with his hand and starts to declare his attack name, and Uji just flashes in and cuts his arm off. He's like, oh my god, this guy's fast. Jesus. So he darts away and goes, oh my god, he's incredibly powerful. His supernatural powers, athletic abilities, he's exponentially stronger than any I've encountered before. Samurai officer Heisuke Uji. So he perches in a tree nearby, and he says, I'm so glad I met you. And Uji's like, I could just flash step over to him and kill him, but he said something surprising, so I'll talk to him instead. What? So the guy says, I get to take out a powerful samurai. We didn't just lure you here to gang up on you. It was all engineered from the start for the purpose of this attack. Dark Hades blast! And black flames gather around the building that they're on, and a huge column of fire streaks up, and that's where the chapter ends. Gee, I wonder if Uji is dead or not. He's probably not dead. It's
oh man, if they just start killing everybody, like everybody just starts dying, like holy shit, dude, this series is metal. How does he get out of this? I'm trying to think.
He runs fast and gets out of the way.
But that's not exciting enough. They can't just do that. I mean, they could, and it would be really funny if that's what happened. Is he just runs? He's like, I just run fast. I don't
know what set any of Uji's stuff apart from anything else he's done in this chapter.
I don't know, but I do have a theory, Nick. What if this is when the girl comes, Bajinchio? She comes back and she saves him. Because we gotta get it. We gotta get everybody back. The gang's got to be all here for them to fight. Question mark?
I literally will not be surprised if she comes back in the next chapter, because I feel like there's not a lot time left for her to come back now. So.
No, probably not particularly.
Like the way that this chapter unfolds is like, yeah, that villain is dead, that villain is dead. It's just done. It's done. So, all right.
All right, let's talk about a better series, Nick. Let's talk about.
Well.
Oh wait, hold on, wait before.
Hold on. Well, there is the special thing that happened that came out.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that first.
We're gonna talk a little bit about Goodbye Eri.
Okay.
I'm not gonna summarize this. This is 200 pages long. It'll take me too long. We didn't really talk at all about Tatsuki Fujimoto's last volume-long one-shot, which was legitimately one of my favorite manga that I've ever read. It was really, really good. This was also really, really good. I think it might it might be objectively better, although I didn't like it as much, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, and the last one shot had a lot to say about just the art of storytelling through manga and what it can mean to a creator. And this is very similar. It's about how the effect of telling a story, even a true story, can affect the way that the teller perceives and remembers it based on the way that they tell it. But it's through the medium of making movies, making films. And basically it's about these, like, it starts off with a documentary that, the kid protagonist makes about his dying mom and how it kind of idealizes her memory as she's getting worse and worse. I think the thing that hit me very early on was occasionally it would just cut to Yuta's dad, and Yuta would just say, "Dad's crying,"
Yeah.
because his wife is terminally ill. uh, but then, shockingly, at the end, Yuta doesn't go to film his mom's last moments in the hospital. He can't go through with it. So the film that he's making about her ends with him running away from the hospital, and it dramatically explodes behind him as he runs away from it. But this ends up catching the attention of a girl named Eri, because everyone else is like,
Everyone
"What
at
the
the
fuck,
school
dude?
hates
That's
it.
an
They're
insult to your
all-
mom's memory."
Yeah.
Everyone except her thinks that this is awful. It's a terribly distasteful decision. It's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, this is how you want to remember your mom, by just having an explosion go off when she dies instead of actually doing anything about that. But it catches Aries' attention, and so she's like, "Okay, I want you to make another movie, but we got to actually, like, get you to know what good movies are first." So she teaches about that, and she essentially eventually relates to him, like, "I want you to make a movie about my life," because she is also terminally ill. But she also likes his fantastic, twists that he puts on things. So he says this is a movie about a vampire girl who meets a guy who is trying to get over the loss of his mother, and everyone didn't like the movie that he made about her. So now he's going to make another movie. And it gets very Inception-y in terms of the layers of pulling back out of what has happened in order to reveal, like, yeah, this was also within a story, within a story, within a story, kind of thing. Peels the layers of the onion back. But eventually what comes out of the whole thing is, because Yuta's dad tells him, "I've got some footage of your mom being really, really abusive to you while making this film, because she was like this movie producer. She was very perfectionist, and she was not great a lot of the time. But the version of your mom that you put in this movie, she's so wonderful and caring and stuff. But, you've kind of twisted your own memory of her because of that idealized vision." And eventually, we of course see that Yuta has done the same thing for Eri after we get past the point where she passes away from her disease. And then you'd think it could just end on the note of, because, like, we see Yuta talking with her actual friend, whom we had not met during the entire making of the documentary. And she says, Eri could be a bit of an asshole sometimes. She was kind of selfish and stuff, and she really asked a lot of you. And she, asks, like, "Hey, did you guys actually, like, fall in love or anything?" He's like, no, that was purely for the film. Like, so there are very clearly falsified parts of this quote unquote documentary that he made about this person you befriended. And then it fades to black, and then it fades back in, because it turns out Yuta's life after that point wasn't great, because he obsessed over the film about Eri that he made and was trying to perfect it in his life after that point. And then one day he was in a car accident and his fucking family died. And it's just, it keeps going until eventually he's thinking about committing suicide the same way he did, by the way, at the start of the film before he met Eri. And so he goes to the abandoned place that he would watch movies with Eri, and she's there again. But she's the same way that she was as a high school student. And you're just like, "Why haven't you aged?" "Because I'm a vampire." "But I made that part of you up." No, it's not fantasy at all. I'm a vampire. But my memory resets every few years and I die. But I now know what I was like because of this movie that you showed me about while I was dying. So now I know, how important that is. I've got a human heart, and I've got more than just like a letter I would have left for myself. You showed me the kind of person that I last was. So Yuta asks her, everyone you love, though, is going to die before you. Your parents, your lovers, your friends, you're going to watch all of them die. And she says, I'm going to be fine because I've got this movie. Isn't that beautiful? And Yuta says, yeah, it is. And he wishes her goodbye. And he leaves. And he remembers what Eri told him about, hey, you need a pinch of fantasy in all these stories that you tell. And as he leaves the building, it dramatically explodes behind him. This is fucking amazing.
It's a fantastic ending where you're really like, because you do this. So this is essentially the length of like a full volume, and it tells a very complete story. And it's hard not to kind of go through the emotions of being like sad and then being like, what is this twist? And be like, what's going on? Then you kind of get sad, then you get depressed for a little bit, and then it kind of starts to leave you off on this catharsis. And then in the Fujimoto way, he just ends it by blowing up the building. And it's I can only speak for myself, but I truly don't know how someone didn't get to that last page turn and just not laugh. Like, you just like, fuck yeah, man. Yeah. Of course the building explodes.
And it's satisfying too because of how it was set up at the beginning and stuff, and it leaves you off on this note of like, yeah, I guess Yuta's gonna be okay now. He's at least, been given this new perspective on things. I like the way that the entire story makes you question very, very, very deliberately what is real and what is fake, because ultimately the entire thing is a manga. It's all a story. But it gives you a lot to think about and ponder in terms of the way that storytellers affect not just the audience's perception of things, but their own perception of things. It's really, really clever and cool. So this was really good. Like I said, I think it might be better than the last one shot. It just didn't resonate as strongly with me, but still, this is 9 point something out of 10. Like, it's great.
That's an absolutely fair thing. I liked, what was the last one? I want to say It Begins. That's not the name of it. Look Back.
It Begins.
Does it Look Back?
Yes.
Okay.
It was.
I liked Look Back. Not as much as everybody else seemed to, and I kind of felt a little guilty for that. I think part of it was just like I didn't have a knowledge or connection to the actual sort of tragedy that was referenced, not delivered like directly, but it was clearly kind of in reference to. So I didn't have like a personal thing there. It was kind of just like a general empathy kind of thing. And I did like it quite a lot. It was a very excellent story that was very emotional. But this one, just in reading it, I was able to find moments where it's like, oh, this feels deeply connective to like my life or things that I've done. I love how it played with perspective and what's real or not. I thought it was such a brilliant moment that's not really like dwelled upon too much, but after the goodbye Eri thing is actually revealed, seeing that there was another friend who is not a part of the story at all, who's also like, Eri's not as cute as you made her out. Like, she wears glasses usually and she has a retainer. Like, why did you do that? Like, you guys weren't like an item. Like all these little details that you're like, holy, like it's like 2 panels long and you're just like, holy crap, that completely changes the way I was looking at this.
Yeah, it was all fabricated, or it was all, touched up basically. But then, later on when Yuta is confronted by Eri, it's that version of Eri that we have met. Yeah. That is what
we never see the version of Eri that supposedly exists. We only ever see the version that he has created, with the lens essentially for us.
Which I guess is kind of an important contrast compared to the reveal of how his mother was really like.
Yes.
It's he's still got the memory of that Eri held on to. But it's all very good.
I highly recommend, if you haven't checked it out, to give it a read.
2 things. Some people are asking if it's eligible for chapter of the week. I consider it a volume, not a chapter. But if you want to say. But the other is I've seen, I think, a couple different people saying like, yeah, I really want more Chainsaw Man, but also if Fujimoto never makes another part of Chainsaw Man and just keeps on making stories like this, I'll be fine with that. And it's like, they're really good.
I'm completely fine with it. I honestly don't really need a Chainsaw Man part 2.
Well, but then it'll come out and you'll be like, why did I ever think I couldn't?
Oh no, I'm sure Chainsaw Man part 2 is going to be phenomenal, but like, I don't need it. So if we get it, extra bonus, but I could certainly like, if I'm dying like right now, and all the regrets are going through my mind, I'm certainly not going to sit there being like, I didn't get to see Chainsaw Man Part 2. It's like, because I got to see fucking Chainsaw Man Part 1. That part was fucking awesome.
True that.
All right.
All right.
Nick.
I've got a puzzle for you, Chris.
Let's do podcasters postulate poetically phrased professional pretenders.
All right, yeah, let's do that.
And I have one for you as well.
All right, why don't you start off, because I actually have to get my notepad file open.
So I'm going to read this to you as best I can. So this one I made up.
Okay.
Painted and pierced performer plummets perpetually, comma, poetically.
That's Jeff Hardy.
Yes, there you go.
I mean, that is absolutely 100 billion% Jeff Hardy.
There was a part after I wrote it where I was
like as you read it, each word literally was like, no, that can't be anyone but Jeff Hardy. And then you got to poetically. I was like, yes.
Well, I was worried before I added poetically because I was like, well, that could also just be Darby Allin. Also the same thing.
No, if you had thrown me with something like, I don't know, punitively, I don't know, so something that's not flattering, I would have gone with him instead. All right. Physics purged prince passes, proves parentless.
Purges proves parentless.
Let me get in our text chat here for you. Physics purged prince passes, proves parentless.
Physics purged prince passes, proves parentless. It's not Finn Balor.
No, it is not.
Okay. Who would be a prince?
This was one where I was upset about the lack of P words for the term that I was looking for.
Okay.
So,
is there a certain word I should focus in on that's like the big clue?
Honestly, if they are going for the biggest hint, I would actually go for parentless.
Parentless. I mean, Undertaker's parentless.
That's not what I mean, but okay. I don't have parents. Why is that?
It's not parentless.
What does it mean?
Wait.
Go ahead.
No, sorry. I was thinking for a moment Daniel Garcia, but his parents are still with him. They're all part of the Jericho Appreciation Society.
That's right, his dad's.
It's not Cody Rhodes, is it?
No, okay. But what would you do to insult someone by implying?
Bastard.
Yeah.
Bastard. Pac.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you understand how the rest of it applies to him?
Yes. He was the man who defied gravity. Hold on a second.
He was the king of the cruiserweights.
Yes. Proves parentless.
And passes because he sat out in WWE for like 2 years because he didn't like what they were having him do.
That is very true. That's a good one. I like that one a lot. Proves parentless. That's a good one. Good term. All right, Nick. Let's talk about PPPPPP.
Yes! Chapter 28, One Mistake.
And a cover page that is as heterosexual as it comes, guys.
Absolutely.
This is what heterosexual girls normally do with each other. They just wrap each other's legs around each other.
Just a queen and her succubus sitting in each other's laps the way friends do.
The first time I saw this, I thought this panel or this page was a lot more lewd than it was because I read Melodi's leg, or I read Mimin's leg as Melodi's leg.
Oh, so like they were contorting around each other.
Well, no, I was like, is Melody just sitting fucking bare ass on the floor? Like, holy shit, that's fucking wild. Fujimoto really opened the doors.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, like it's coming out of Maloli's skirt as opposed to going under it. Got it. Okay. So Sora Chica has shown up at the performance, and he says some cool lines. And he says, "You can understand the music with your heart, but it's hard to put into words. The feeling she played with was understated. You can clearly tell that this was how it was meant to be." And guy who's there for some reason and has been there for some reason for a long time at this point is like, oh my god, it's Soroshika Otagami. But Soroshika's like, but that woman's really scary, isn't she? He's like, hey, dude, what a professional. Had some dramatic lines to deliver, did not let the distractions affect him, nailed the delivery. Good stuff. Anyway, Lucky goes to talk to Maloli, I guess. She wanted to talk to him. And so he's like, what's going on? Your performance of Pavani for a Dead Princess was wonderful. And then Maloli thanks him, and she looks, I don't know, because sometimes facial expressions are hard to read in this series, but she makes a face. And then she says, Minmin's going to playing the piano soon. If a girl who was born just to play the piano hates it, it's the same as being dead. And Lucky's like, what are you talking about? That's it. Bye.
Goodbye. I fucking love it. Dude, her pupils are as large as her entire eye at this point. Like, her iris, rather. Like, it's such a terrifying visual. Her fucking gigantic eyes. And she's like, if a girl who's born to play the piano hates it, it's the same as being dead. Like, come again? Goodbye. Like, that's the most terrifying thing I could think of.
I don't know if Maloli is trying to warn Lucky in this moment, or if she's just like, I'm going to kill your sister. So
I think she was stating it as like, sort of like a thing. Because I think in her mind, she thinks this is good for Lucky. Because she's like, Min's going to hate piano, and you will benefit from that. Because now you won't lose in that contest against her.
Maybe we'll get an explanation later. But yeah, it does seem a bit... it could be read a couple different ways, I think, for right now, based off of how the last chapter went. Sorochika, meanwhile, is talking to Ponytail Dude, and he says, she even told us she'd become evil through her performance. And Mr. Music Analysis guy over here is like, what are you talking about? And Sorochika says, on the surface, it was a good performance, but dig deeper, and you'll see it was just a monologue, which is... like, holy shit. But he also says there's a tiny part of her that hasn't yet become completely evil. She might not have noticed, but that's what it sounded like. Ponytail guy's like, I mean, he sounds really convincing, so I guess that he's right.
I love his little face. It's just like, he's like a god, and he has like the cheesiest, dumbest smile. Like, what are you doing, buddy?
Stop letting me count your teeth. Ugh. So, oh gosh, I've forgotten her name. Furusu, yes. So she meets up with Lucky in the lobby before Minmin's performance. And Lucky just repeats what Maloli said to him, that she's going to hate playing the piano. And then he asks Furusu, what do you think she meant by that? And Furusu's like, you're worried about her. It's like, yeah, she's his sister. And Lucky apologizes because it's like, I mean, I want to win against her. But Furusu interrupts him and asks, what was Minmin Otagami like as a child? So they sit down with each other, and Lucky says, like, yeah, I mean, like, she loved playing the piano with her fairies. I've only ever seen her conjure trees on TV. So Furusu thinks about this for a bit. She asks, so when she evokes the trees, I don't sense love or joy behind it. And Lucky says, well, yeah, when she would like play at the electronics store, she was having fun. Furusu says, maybe she doesn't like evoking the trees, but they're so beautiful. I'm jealous. But if you keep doing something you don't like, you're going to end up hating it. And Lucky's like, I told her I liked the trees at the electronics store. And Furusu says, yeah, well, because it's good. You can't deny that. But then she's struck by an idea. And she's like, all right, how about this? But we don't get to see that. We cut to Minmin instead, as she has finished her performance. And of course, she evoked the trees again, as we saw. And she's like, that was so boring. I don't get it. I'm the one to blame for Maloli. It's I guess it must be because it's my fault taking me so long to be free. I've got to hurry up and be free. so bored. And then she says aloud, I hate the piano. And then she's shocked by what she has just said. And she asks herself, like, what did I just say? I hate the piano? I can't hate the piano because it's thanks to piano. I got to meet the fairies. And she's tearing up. And she realizes, I haven't seen my fairies lately. I'm sorry I can't bring you out in this concert hall. Maybe I really do hate the piano. And her like face is starting to melt. And it's weird because like it's kind of a comedic image very briefly, but it's like this girl's heart is breaking.
Yeah, this is a reality shattering.
So Furusu suddenly approaches her at this moment. And it's kind of funny because even in her deepest, darkest moment, Min turns to her and is just like, boing, boing, because that's her nickname for her because of her pigtails.
It'd be great if, like, Furusu was like, never mind, I was going to help you, but dumb nickname.
And Furusu invites her to go and see Lucky's performance together. So it looks like there might be something that Lucky has to show her.
I love this chapter so much. I really do. I like, it's honestly a little frustrating because it's like, oh wow, Lucky and Furusu work really well together. I actually really like them bouncing off each other. It's like, yeah, they actually get to bounce off each other because Furusu has just kind of become more of like a side character, quasi love interest thing, which is a little bit of a shame.
Right.
But
he's not a rival or fellow competitor right now.
But I do actually really like her character, and I like when her and Lucky interact. I don't know why. There's just something very nice about them interacting. I'm like, oh, I hope these two kids work out. Whatever that may be. I don't even need them to be in a relationship. I just like the two of them together interacting. The moment, though, that really sells this chapter is just Min being like, I hate this. I hate the piano. And then just like that static like shock moment panel to be like, wait, did I just say I hate the piano? And like the shattering of her, like in this moment where Min has kind of been this aloof sort of pseudo antagonist. She's the obstacle, but you don't really hate her per se. She's just sort of this free spirit that is better than everyone else around her, basically. Having her like entire world shattered in her, like in front of her, was devastating. Like I immediately felt that moment. I'm like, holy shit, this hits crazy hard. So the idea that the end of the chapter is Furusu coming up and be like, hey, let's go listen to Lucky's performance together. Like it immediately filled me up. I was like, this is so fucking exciting. Like I was so happy that she doesn't have to just sit here and be like, oh, my entire reality is gone now because I don't think I enjoy playing the piano anymore. And it's like, no, here's the olive branch being thrown out to be like, hey, I think we can save your joy for this art form.
Yeah, and it feels like it is going to lead to a much more satisfying conclusion than just if Lucky just beat her or whatever. Yeah. So.
All right, Nick, let's go over to Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Chapter 103, Mash Burn Dead, and the painful it's that word I can never say, Panacea, Panacea,
Hold on, putting down painful Panacea as a clue to give in a wrestling puzzle.
Is that it, Panacea?
I guess. I don't know.
Hold on, I'm gonna
say confidently, and people will believe it's correct.
Panacea.
Panacea. You lied to me, Nick.
Yep.
All right. We opened the chapter with Margaret, who she is dunking shrimp into tartar sauce as she does, and is chowing down on it. And Lord Abel is there and says they were awfully rude to us, and yet they failed to impress. I wasn't remotely satisfied with them. And Abyss Razor is like, I heard you guys defeated the rest of the Walkus magic users on your own. It sounds like it was a real cool fight. Anyway, we didn't get to see any of that. Maybe if this gets an anime, we can expand on it. Doesn't say that part, but that is kind of what's alluded to. Margaret. So Abyss Razor continues that like Innocent Zero is going to launch a worldwide attack 1 month from now. It seems so far removed from our inter-school squabbles. And Margaret says, personally, I'm looking forward to it. From an objective standpoint, we've got a front row seat to the end of the world. How thrilling. We cut over, and Lance is walking down a hallway, being sort of brooding, and he's just like, I entered this school to protect my sister, and I can't protect my sister if Innocent Zero does this. I need to get stronger. And Dot is behind him, just going, hey, come on. What? Why are you leaving me out?
Yo!
Yeah, just doing all this annoying stuff. And Lance says, something's following me. Dot says out loud, don't think you can ignore me. And Lance thinks to himself, I'll ignore it. I don't know why. I was like, all right, kind of funny. We cut over to a spooky castle where Mash is chained to a bed. And Rio is there, Rio Gantz, who we see in a flashback, rescued Mash and is like, I will take you to someone who could treat your injuries and muscle spasms in the manliest way possible, which I don't quite understand what that means. He's just carrying him like a log fucking panel, basically. Mash says, that's very kind of you, and Rio says, don't mention it. As the hottest guy in the world, I've got to look out for the hot guy junior. I was like, I don't understand what that means.
Let's see if this will work now.
Okay. All right, let's get Nick's camera going. It's his beautiful face.
Yeah. See if that affects the call.
Yeah, we'll see. So Mash is like, hey, what are the shackles here for? And he just
Fair question.
He just hears, brrrr. He's like, well, that sounds like a chainsaw. And a woman shows up with a chainsaw, and she's like, it'll be over soon. And Mash is like, you tricked me.
He doesn't seem all that disturbed by this.
And she just says, he says, listen, I'm just here to get treatment for my muscle spasms. That looks like, and she interrupts him and says, yes, it's a chainsaw. And he says, but that's a tool they use to cut down trees. Great line. Good point. It is a tool they use to cut down trees. So she goes to, like, touches him with the chainsaw and then stops. He's like, is there a reason you didn't finish me off? And she says, this is a magic chainsaw capable of cutting pain, exhaustion, and toxins right out of your body. But it's very painful. And Mash is like, no thanks. And she just keeps, he just keeps smiling. He's like, could you stop making that face each time you threaten me? I want to go home. And Lei just says, Mash, you should know you don't have any say in this. He's like, oh, okay then. She just goes down. There's like a spatter of blood. Mash gets up and says, oh, wow, I was sure it was a goner. I can move now. Woohoo! Yippee! It is explained that this is Mistress Meliadul, and she was stronger than even Master Wahlberg in her day. So it turns out Adam Jobs was basically like the first or whatever Hokage, the third Hokage, where he had 3 pupils and they were all very strong ninjas. One of them went evil. One of them was like good. And then there was a girl. And
who could heal?
Yes, and you've now met them all. So Mistress Meliadul is stronger than the headmaster. I like that this series is just going to be very upfront with, like, I liked Naruto. Remember when I did Rock Lee versus Gaara a week or 2 ago? Now I brought in Tsunade with the chainsaw.
Oh man, just Tsunade, but she had a chainsaw. That is just an improvement, isn't it?
It's a strict improvement, strictly better. It really is. Mash is just like, oh, wow, that's crazy. Rio says, I'm only being honest. And then he goes to, like, touch her shoulder. He's like, you've got a little dust. And she, like, punches him through a wall. And she's like, mind your wretched hands around a lady, you bloomin' fool. Which I don't know what accent that's meant to be.
I can only imagine it's something like, mind your wretched hands around a lady, you bloomin' fool.
Yeah, I was like, I guess Scottish, I guess. And I like Rio crushed through the wall, just says, And there you have it, Mash. Burn dead. Don't just assume. Always check in with the other party about their boundaries before you act, which is a very good lesson. That is a great lesson to give people. And I love that he said
particularly to the junior hotties.
Yes.
Like
They need to respect boundaries, and I like that he's just smashing it all while saying it's like, see, this is an important lesson we've all had to learn here today. Melia Duel is basically like, hey, as you are now, you are not going to possibly be able to beat Innocent Zero. You're not even a match for his eldest child. You're doomed to die, basically. But the power of darkness on that strongest day of the eclipse, he will be coming, so that gives you just 30 days until Innocent Zero and the others attack. And at that time, you have to at least be stronger than me. I believe if you complete my training, you'll gain incredible power. But if you'll die, if you don't, you'll be in such a state you'll never live a normal life again. We risk yourself for the slimmest of chances. And Mash is like, how slim are we talking about? She's like, 0.1%. In other words, you will fail 999 times out of 1,000. Mash is like, oh, I see. Melia Duel's like, yeah, well, I mean, you're very young. There's no reason for you to risk your entire life for this. And Mash is like, oh yeah, there is. I have. And he thinks back to all of his friends. He says, a lot that I need to protect regardless of the risk. So even if my chance is 1 in 1,000, I'll make sure that one time is the first time. I know I can. And Melia Duel just says, very well, let the training begin. And we get the little line that says 30 days remain until the final battle.
I do want to point out in that little shot of Mash, thinking about all of his friends, which is very sweet. But he also has a giant cream puff, so it's like,
yeah, I mean, obviously,
just as valuable as all of his friends,
There is no world for MASH if there is not cream puffs in it. That is just a distinguished fact. I also like how Tom Knowles is there, but he's like facing the fucking
way
background.
back in the back. Yeah. He's there, but he's over there. He's over back there. Yeah. It was serviceable and it had some good jokes.
I had a lot of fun with it, and I really like Mash's line at the end. I thought it was a good line.
Let's move on to The Elusive Samurai, Chapter 58, Return, 1335. Kusunoki has intercepted Takauji, right as Takauji is trying to chase down Tokiyuki and his friends. And Kusunoki says, oh yeah, you were late, so I came to welcome you. My wife said it would be rude to serve you cold food. And so he immediately makes like a pathetic guy, like, oh, please come back, because I won't be able to face her if I don't bring you back soon. She'll be so angry. So Takauji goes off with him and he's like, yeah, I look forward to your wife's cooking. And so they ride back together, which permits Tokiyuki to escape. And Kusunoki, of course, looks over his shoulder as they ride off, and he just thinks, yeah, the boy may have overheard my conversation, so I was worried, and I came back to check. And he kind of just like turns his horse and just points very, very subtly to Tokiyuki, and he thinks to himself, I will only help you this once, boy. I owe my status to the Mikado, so I will defeat his enemies, whether they be boys or heroes. So, cool little moment for Kusunoki. Very subtly letting him get away, but just letting you know, like, I'm not going to do this anymore because I'm a coward. So, at that moment, Moro now rides up with Takauji's other men, and they reunite. There are, of course, questions about the children, and Takauji's like, oh yeah, they were assassins. So, and Kusunoki even makes me, oh my god, we should send soldiers after them. But Takauji, being Takauji, is just like, I just want some food and sake.
Yeah.
So, that's all. Moro now is not Moro now, but someone else is kind of pissed off about this, and he's like, I bet that Kusunoki's behind this. And Moro now thinks your loyalty to the Mikado is troublesome, so I'm going to remove you someday. But all of them just go back to Kusunoki's residence, and they go to have a meal. Meanwhile, the hour of the dog arrives, and hey, the plan to assassinate the Mikado has failed. Uh-oh. A bunch of armed men show. A bunch of armed men show up to make arrests instead of the Mikado, and so Yusue is like, oh, uh-oh. So he turns to Kinmune and he's like, we've got to get out of here. But Kinmune says, I'm not going to run away. Which Yasui objects to, but Kinmune shoves him back and says, the great Saionji family cannot rely on you barbarians. Gambled and lost, so I must pay despite my rank. Thank you for assisting my ambitions. Now carry on the fight, as befits a barbarian warrior. Hey, look at how regal and cool this guy looks as he, goes to die, and we never hear of him again.
How noble.
All right. Also, we're introduced to some of the Emperor's aides, I guess. He goes off to his death, looking all dignified and stuff. Yeah. Years later, the Ashikaga purchased the site of the ski and constructed the Temple of the Golden Pavilion. History. Thank you. Tokiyuki and company ride off on their escape, but as they go, Mima runs into them in the street and she calls out to them. Tokiyuki pauses and he says, I'm sorry for not saying goodbye, but I enjoyed my time with you in Kyo. And Mima says, but we'll meet again, right? And Tokiyuki turns to her and there are just tears streaming down his face. And he lowers his head and says, someday perhaps. And he rides off and he's just thinking to himself, I'm just so frustrated. I was humiliated in that confrontation. I was completely powerless. I want to bring him down, so I must get stronger. So, nice little, hey, we didn't forget about Mima, but she is not Tokiyuki's priority in this moment. He's just thinking about the really, really big problem that they're facing. So they all get away from Kyo. Tokiyuki and the boys catch their breath after having gotten away. Genma's like, that was scary! And Fubuki is upset because, his plan failed. He doesn't know how to defeat this guy. But Kojiro basically gets them all back on their feet. He shoves some rice and Fubuki. Attempt through the city into chaos. Your plan was a success from the beginning. And yeah, we're young. Of course we lost a direct fight, but warriors don't let a loss get them down. Unless, they get their arm chopped off or something. Anyway, someday we'll present the young lord with Takauchi's. It would look, warriors don't let a loss get them down, except for a loss of blood, limb, food. Don't like it when I lose food.
I hate that.
Anyway, he's kicking people around and getting them back on their feet. And Tokiyuki just thinks to himself, I'm really glad that Kojiro's here. And then we just get a little bit of a really quick sequence where they meet up again with Yasuye and Ayako and Shizuku. And they reflect on the time that they had in Kyo, how they had good times and, of course, bad times and learned a lot. They make it again through the security checkpoint because Yasuie just goes, I got fired! And they're allowed to pass through, so that worked. And then they once again reach Yorishige's domain. And he says to them, after you've experienced Kyo, you now wear the mien of a fierce warrior. Mien! That's a great word. And he says that he has prepared soldiers, and he takes Tokiyuki's hands and says, the time is ripe. Let us begin the battle to reclaim your throne. So we end the arc on a negative note, really. Like, they lost and just had to fucking run away, and it wasn't even a triumphant running away. They were just like, well, shit, that failed, let's leave.
Yeah, we got our shit handed to us. Let's go home, guys. Let's pack it in.
Got another battle to prepare for. Let's go. Okay. So,
good chapter.
Yep.
I like it. Let's move on very, very quickly because we are running very tight on time over to Black Clover, page 329, The King of Devils and the Boys with No Magic. Lucifero? Is that his name? Or is that the last one? Lucifero is the bad guy. Okay. He's just like, this cannot be. I am Lucifero. He says it right there. I'm dumb. He's like, I am the strongest. I rule. No one can beat me. How did these two
I'm so awesome.
And he just screams, I cannot possibly lose to you. And the very sound of his voice sends them to the ground. And like, holy shit. We did all of that and he's still not dead? And Sabretooth is just like, oh, I can't cloak us in enough anti-magic to cancel out his gravity, you know? And he's just like, how dare you look down on me for even a moment? Half of my power is still in the underworld. I'm not even at full strength. Oh, you're helpless now. I'm going to crush you in the end. No one stands before me. I am the strongest. You are motes of dust.
I don't have my good controller. If I had my pro gamer controller, I would have totally beaten you.
I would have crushed you. Yeah, you guys, your game, your console's a little dusty, so it doesn't run as quick. So the frames were off. That's why I lost. He looks forward and he sees a black orb, and whoop! What should you know? But Yami and Nature Boy Fair show up, and he's like, "You should be dead," and they're like, "Here and now will surpass our limits." And I like that they are both still impaled with Lucifero's arms.
Right, because has to cut them off, so they're just still stuck in there.
It's kind of awesome. And he's like, struggle all you like, you have no way to attack. That boy can't even stand. And then Asta is standing. He's like, what is this? What are you? And Asta's prepared to kill him. And he's like, no, I'm going to run away. I'll kill you later. I'm flying away.
I'll have my good controller next time.
And he's like, next time I'll kill you. Next time, I swear. And he sees stars, one right above Asta and one right next to him. And Asta teleports in, and from where he is just says, there is no next time, right, Asta? And Asta fucking cuts this guy in half, cuts another one of his fucking horns off.
Ah! The horn! Why has everyone shot me in the horn?
Well, how do they know that's the dick of demons? It hurts so much. It hurts our testicles. And I can't remember it's the demon's name, Astrodemica or whatever, is just like, brilliant, victory is yours. Because it seems, Nick, finally, after months, it seems Lucifero is finally defeated.
Yeah, and let's keep in mind that, Lucifero only showed up at the end of a really long fight, too.
Yeah.
A Dramalek.
A Dramalek, yeah. It's something like that, yeah. And this is where some German pops in and is just like, and actually, it's a Dramalek. And then I have to come in, I'm like, how about it's a Andromeda? And then I'm just like, Power Rangers Lost in Space or whatever. And then I forget why I call this character Power Rangers Lost in Space, but I do. And then someone's like, that's not Power Rangers Lost in Space. That was Power Rangers fucking Galaxy or whatever. And they're like, Power Rangers Lost in Space isn't even a thing. And I'm like, fuck you. Now I'm just call them Dorkzilla. And I forget why I'm doing that. So I'm just saying, guys, I'm 7 steps ahead of you. You can't beat me on this.
There you go, everyone. Left the question. Is Chris playing 7D chess, or did she just forget 7 details in a row and have to correct everything?
Did they remember what season of Power Rangers Andromeda was on? And I'm like, I'm not even sure if that was her name, to be completely honest.
It was Astronema.
Damn. It's so close, though. Or is that the checkmate that I want you to think?
Yeah. Damn it.
I've cornered you. Playing space chess.
I don't even know why. Okay, so we'll just call that character Titus Andromedon, I guess, from now on.
I just call him Kimmy Schmidt, and I'm like, why do I call him that?
Oh, God. All right, let's wrap up with One Piece.
Set sail with One Piece. Hey, real quick, R.I.P. to Gilbert Gottfried. The greatest gift
That's
that
right.
we had was the One Piece rap. I listened to it
Don't
like
give
4
it up,
times.
Luffy.
Oh man, it's great. You gotta treat yourselves to it. R.I.P.
It is such a weird thing to me that, of course, Gilbert Gottfried, who had a career that touched insurance commercials to really, really not safe for work jokes at comedy roasts to kids' cartoon voice acting. Like, that's such a wide breadth of entertainment that he provided. And in all of that, one of the last really widely watched things that people are going to remember him by is him reciting the One Piece rap. Like, what a world. What a world.
Yeah. Like a lady, Nami's not shy. Or like, well, I guess in his mind he didn't read that you're supposed to spell out lady, but that's fine. Sanji cooks, Chopper doctoring, Gaio, yeah. Oh, it's so fucking good. I love it.
Yeah, yo. Chapter 1046 of One Piece is Raizo. What? Well, we'll get to it. Luffy is fighting with Kaido still. He's still in Gear 5 and knocking Kaido every which way, being ridiculous in every last form. Luffy is just like, hey, what do you think of that last thing I did? What should I call it? Gum something?
Gum face rip.
Yeah.
Some cool shit like that.
So Kaido staggers to his feet. And he's like, I have one question. Who are you? Like, he only just now cares.
Yeah.
So Zunisha clarifies, I guess, what he said before. It's like, no. Luffy's not Joy Boy. It's just I haven't heard this rhythm since Joy Boy. Oh, Joy Boy. It's as though you're right there. My heart is dancing. I cannot help but feel fate is at work. I cannot help but put my hopes in him. Thanks, Giant Elephant, for believing in Luffy. Yay. Luffy, of course, however, gives his very proper introduction. He's Monkey D. Luffy, and he says, I'm going to be the one to surpass you and become king of the pirates. Hell yeah.
Do you ever think, and I don't know why this came to me, based off the way this series goes, have you ever wondered if the D is special because if you turn it on its side, it's a big smile? That might actually be what the will of D is at this point.
That would not surprise me in the slightest.
Like, at this point, after this, like, Joy Boy reveal, like, I really have reached a point I was like, I feel like everything in One Piece, every big mystery is a gigantic joke.
Entirely possible. And hey,
I'm here for it.
We've seen an 8 turn on its side to become an infinity, treated as if it's the most, serious thing in the world. So why not a smiley face D? Why not? So Kaido says, I'm relieved to hear you've still got sass because he's a grandpa. Like, what a weird thing to say. And Kaido's like, I've lost a lot in this fight that I've built up over the years. My followers, my castle. Same for you, right? But Luffy just says, but there's still something I gotta take back from you. And he starts to say what it is, but Kaido hits him in the face with his club a bunch. So instead, Luffy goes, which really made me laugh when I saw it. Because he's having this big serious moment and just goes, so he responds with punches, and just like before, they make freaking impact spheres come out of Kaido's body. And then they both get knocked away from each other and kind of recover a bit. Kaido points out, oh yeah, stuff is burning up underneath us. Everyone trapped in the castle is going to burn to death. But Luffy says, nah, I left everyone else in charge down there. All I have to do is beat you. And for some fucking reason, that's not the note we leave them on. It's Kaido launching a blast of pressure from his club and Luffy grabbing his crotch and lifting his body up to top. And that's when we cut away.
We'll be back next week.
Stuff is on fire. People reacting to the stuff being on fire. Chopper and Nami reiterate that stuff is on fire and people are injured and in danger. There are people who are trying to put out the fire. Law's crew are carrying Beppo around. Robin and Brooke are like, shit, there's no way to escape. Everything's on fire. There is, however, a very brief moment where people come across Brooke and they're like, oh my God, he burned up. And he's like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Sanji can't get out. Stuff's on fire. Like some of these could have been skipped. Is all I'm saying.
I mean, it does add to the weight that all these characters are like, holy shit, we can't get out of it. We're all trapped. I don't know if I needed to see fucking Apu. Like, that's one character I'm like, yeah. Shit.
And Usopp, he tries to use some of his Green Star stuff to just like spray out water that way. It's really not working. And also there's a moment where he has a little talk with it's Hamlet, right? I think it is the giraffe guy. Anyway.
Sure.
Yeah, he has this moment like, I've got to save Kid and Kiku, and I want to save myself. And he's like, you gotta include me there too, right? Save me. I'm carrying them. Come on. Yeah. And Frankie's carrying around Zoro. Anyway, Raizo and Jimbei are gonna do something. And so Raizo says, I am putting my faith in you. I've been prepared for this ever since that fateful day. When stuff was on fire and Momonosuke and Hiyori were in danger back when, Toki was being killed and stuff. Anyway, he says, I failed to protect Lord Owen that day. Despite my ninjutsu, I failed to protect anyone. I utterly shamed myself. You're pretty great, Raizo. Yeah. But then we get a very, very, very brief explanation that he learned a technique while he was on Zou. And so he learned this special rain technique. And so he summons the Elephant's Bath Ninja Restoration and launches a huge wave of water at Jimbei, who fucking grabs it and judo throws it.
It is an immensely cool moment.
Oh, man. What a cool moment for Jimbei.
For Jimbei. Jimbei really, I want people to know, if there is, I don't give One Piece my MVP this week, but if I did, it would have been to Jimbei.
It's like, oh man, look at Raizo, the title character, set up. He does the layup so that Jimbei can do the dunk. Like, that's what happens.
I'm so glad he got to make Jimbei look cool.
Yeah, so Jimbei twists the water around and just sends it slamming through different corridors. Huge waves of water streak out to help put out the fire. Yay, isn't that nice? Also, we see Killer very briefly, I guess. Water shows up and saves Killer, and the people are carrying it. Thank you. Okay.
I mean, it's good,
Yeah, it's better than Apu. So, Yamato and Momonosuke, meanwhile, are reacting to stuff going on, and Yamato's commanding, like, hey, you gotta hurry, Momonosuke. And Momono says, why? Kaido's still alive. But Yamato is like, this can't hold. The flame clouds aren't going to last. You have to make flame clouds to keep Onigashima aloft. It's always been the only solution. By the way, while he is saying this, he has grabbed Momonosuke by the mustache and is yanking him. It's like, listen to me. I'm perched on your back. And he says, Onigashima is going to fall. But, by the way, while he says that, Luffy has only just grabbed a frickin' bolt of lightning from the sky. Because he can do literally anything now.
Yeah, it's cartoon logic. You can grab a lightning bolt and throw it at people. He's one step away from grabbing an anvil, putting it in the air above Kaido, moving his hand away, and it hovers there, and then he taps Kaido on the shoulder, and then tells Kaido, points upward, and then once Kaido looks up, his eyes will bug out, but he'll run in place until the anvil falls and crushes him.
He'll have 7 seconds where he's running in place.
And then Luffy's gonna be like, I call that one gum anvil drop. And they're like, sure. Fucking love it.
Oh man. All right, that is going to wrap things up for Weekly Manga Recap, guys. Favorite chapter and MVP. Let's hit it.
I'm going to give my favorite chapter this week to PPPPPPP, or whatever that series is called, because I really, really liked it. I really, really liked Mimin and her fall into despair, and then the hope that it gave me, okay, this character is going to get out of this. It really resonated with me. As I said, I really like Lucky and Furusu talking. Just a solid chapter, and if I was able to, I probably would give it to Goodbye Eri, because that chapter really did have a lot. But he said, it's not fucking series of the week, it's chapter of the week.
That's right.
Man.
Yeah. I am going to give mine to Akane-banashi. Once again, it was really fucking good. We went over all the reasons it was really good, and I could, honestly, there are like 3 different things that alone would have probably given it that for me. So
There was like a long running, there was a betting pool in our Discord for how long it was going to take before we'd have a week where neither of us picked Akane-banashi for either chapter of the week or MVP.
keep on waiting.
Well, we broke it last week, so,
okay.
so unfortunately the streak is over. But let's see, maybe we start a new one. My MVP is going to be Rip. I was so fucking excited for him to come back in Undead Unluck. Like, I was just, I legitimately had like a hype moment when it happened. I was like, fuck yeah, Rip. I don't know why. I'm a sucker for like just easygoing, cool moments like that. And it suckered me in. I enjoy that series a lot. So a beloved character showing back up was very cool to me.
And my character of the week is gonna be Uji because he was super cool and he beat 2 villains without even trying. Honestly, in terms of accomplishments this week, like, I mean, I am actually going to give mine to Lucifero.
Okay.
For all the reasons you don't want to be an MVP, which was, it was really satisfying to see you look like a pathetic, whiny loser.
I'm going to kill you. Oh no, you're still alive. I'm going to run away.
I'm going to get you next time. Oh no!
That is an immensely cool sequence. That I do have to give props to Black Clover for that. That sequence is fucking awesome.
I don't know if I've ever given an MVP for looking the most pathetic before, but holy shit, did he look really pathetic?
I think we might have given it to Peter Ratchery that 1 week, so
maybe
LVP. The audience, by the way, picked Akane-banashi. They agreed with you as chapter of the week, and Melia Duel from Mashle, Magic, and Muscles won the character of the week, which I can absolutely see. But this was also a week where there were a ton of votes. So Dabi from My Hero, Chinatsu from Blue Box, Akane from Akane-banashi. Characters from everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of different, like, notable character moments that happened this week. Like, honestly, looking back at everything, I don't think there was actually like a single bad chapter this week in terms of standalone. I think Doron Dororon is just bad in terms of, okay, well, I guess all that's out the window now.
Yeah,
and that's it. So I had a really good time reading stuff for this week. And yeah, a lot of stuff to look forward to next week as well, including the return of a particular series. But we'll get to that next time, guys.
All right, that's it.
Yeah. Favorites that have all been wrapped up and stuff. Guys, thank you for tuning in to Weekly Manga Recap here on twitch.tv/RoloT. We record the show Wednesdays, usually starting around 7:30 Eastern time, but sometimes Nick's computer doesn't want to cooperate. So to stay updated on exactly when we are going live with the stream, stay tuned to our Twitter accounts at RoloT, at NickFTime, at WMR Podcast, and join us on the WMR Discord server. Participate in all sorts of fun chats with our other listeners. Talk about the recap series. Talk about the series that we are taking as a recommendation. Make your own recommendations using the Google Doc that is maintained by Ninja X3i, which also keeps track of MVP voting and other wonderfully helpful statistics about the show, which has been going on for so long. There is no way that we would remember all of them unless it was all written down at this point.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone who supports us on patreon.com/weekly manga recap, where you can check out stuff like monthly other recap and bonus episodes that we can make with your guys' helpful support. And thank you to the people who help make the video sides of the show what it is. Milo Jack Stillitz and Wesley Del Cheddar for creating the opening sequence of the video version of Weekly Manga Recap, which you can see on youtube.com/weekly manga recap. And Steve Man, whose title card artwork you can see on some of those recommended series that we do. You can check out his work wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn on the internet, including his own Twitter account, twitter.com/SteveManArt. They're channels now, obviously.
Yes, all of them.
Well, I guess everyone's got that like Hangouts thing, so maybe, I don't know. And thank you, everyone who listens to the show wherever you listen to it, because it's not just available in video form and via streaming. You can also listen to it in audio form at weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, as well as on iTunes and Spotify and basically anywhere podcasts can be listened to.
Absolutely. All right, that's going to do it, I think. Let's get on out of here, Nick.
All right.
See you, losers. We're out of here.
Yeah, I'm already gone. Like, you know, can't you tell? You can't see me, so I'm gone now. Yeah.
That's just logic.